Hello, I'm Wolfie, and this is my YouTube channel. This content may be about dolls, but it's not for children, and today I am altering doll clothing to fit my main doll that I will be using on this channel. This is the first shirt that I have. The Velcro on it was not very strongly stuck, but it's still super cute with that little raspberry, and it looks so adorable on the doll. And here is the matching skirt that came with it. I wanted to give it a crotch area so that it wouldn't fall off my doll's or go up on my doll, and I fixed the little Velcro piece as well because it was not very well on there. I got it from 5BELOW. It's strawberry shortcake. And this is a Tiana dress because favorite princess, love her. But I wanted to not only make it fit the doll, I wanted to make it a little bit shorter on the doll so that you could see her shoes or her feet when I finally give her shoes. But it's still super cute. It just does not fit her at all. And you can see through there. Don't look at her butt. But it will not close around her, and it barely closes around the top part of her chest, which is an altered chest because her base is a Dracula doll. There's a lot of me moving and trying to figure out how I want to place where this dress is going to go on her, because my main idea for it was to have the bow kind of up on her hip or around her waist with that top part just kind of there. This is the point in which I finally took off the dress from her and spent the next forever setting up a stream of one of my friends to watch while I sewed. I then put the dress back on her for the 1000th time to try and figure out once again where I wanted to place everything, and I do later regret cutting off the straps that were on the dress because of the fact that now the chest does not sit well at all, which I'm tired of adjusting this dress, so I'm just dealing with it. I might later make it into some sort of halter top. There's a lot more of me adjusting where I want these folds to be placed and how I want it to form around the body. And this is the point in which I finally started pinning it to see where I wanted everything to be set. And these pins do not stay for long because they decided to try and fall out. And as you can probably clearly see, I'm sewing on a pillow. And I don't really want to sleep with one of those in my eye. After getting her back out of the dress, I sat there and contemplated how I was going to manage to get all of it out. And I then grabbed my string and stuff and my needle. It's just a normal sewing needle from Walmart. I moved my light so you can see it better. I had this needle for probably ever, and I use quilting thread because I found it to be stronger throughout my years of sewing. I now spend a good 20 seconds trying to string a needle. You think I'd be better at it since my grandma, every time she would sew, would make me string her needle because she couldn't see it. There we go. Just took me a good minute to string a needle. This is when I started adjusting the bow, and I decided to sew the bow upwards so that it would place right about where I wanted to, and I could just adjust everything else around it. I tried desperately to cut the string already sewing the bow there, but I couldn't get it, and I was afraid that I was going to start cutting into the bow, so I just adjusted it plainly and hoped to God I kept it lined up. And since I seem to have the dullest scissors ever, it took a good 5-10 seconds to cut that string. I really should get new scissors, but we can never find them in my house. I then struggled to sew through the bow, and I opted to sew the ribbon that was directly under it and some of the actual bow to get it to just stick. I used plain and simple white or black thread. I don't really care to get the thread that is the color of the fabric, plus this dress was already mostly sewn in white thread, so I didn't really give much care. I finally placed the dress back on her to kind of gauge where the bow is and how I want it to continue to sit. And now that I'm looking back on recording, I don't think I needed to adjust it much more other than this. I realize now I probably messed up the dress a little bit more trying to adjust it even more, but it was still a little too tight and loose on some areas. So I wanted to make the Velcro a little tighter and get rid of some of that excess Velcro that was causing it to be kind of frumpy. And yes, I was snacking on red grapes this entire time. I eat a lot. I don't like full meals though, so I'm most of the time snacking on fruit. That's something you'll probably see in a large portion of any videos I make. I then spent the next 2 minutes trying to cut through this Velcro without cutting the actual dress with, you know, a grape snack in between. And I did eventually get it with a mild altercation with the bow. I accidentally sliced a little bit of it. And what I did to get those folds in the fabric how I wanted it is I cut the Velcro and then I folded it up and I sewed those pieces to themselves. So there's kind of like an inner fold on the inside of the top part of the dress. There was also this mesh that was in there that I kind of used as a gauging point to know where to sew my little line along. And although I've only ever broken like 1 or 2 needles, I was surprised while sewing through this Velcro that I wasn't breaking the needle. It was very difficult to try and push everything through, especially if you have like more flexible fingers like I do, where it just bends them completely backwards to try and push anything through. I'm also realizing now that I a little bit lied to you, because this is the area where I fixed some of the Velcro that had started to fall off. My hands hate me and make it like virtually impossible to tie a knot half the time, and so I really had to lean into any monster fucking ancestors in order to get this knot tied. It was very difficult and my hands get sweaty so quickly. This is the point in which I'm actually looking at how I want to line up the Velcro and altering this thickness of each side to make sure that it's the same. This is when I had lost my original string I was using, so I showed you guys a different one that I found, but then immediately found my quilting string, so it was kind of no point of me showing you guys that. And after stringing a needle and holding it in my mouth while I adjust things, don't do that, it's not safe, I got to work properly aligning everything and beginning to pin it so that I could sew along the mesh inner line. On the one side, I sewed a little bit through the Velcro to try and attach them to each other, but I was way too lazy to do that when I got to the other side, so I didn't because it was really hard. I sewed the other side and got it all lined up, and then I tried it on the doll again. It was a wee bit difficult to squeeze it back over her hips, but I think I got it all lined up pretty well on her. This is the point after I cut off those straps, which I regret because now it doesn't sit properly. And I saw where I needed to alter and see how I could try and fix it before just yanking it off of her. There's a lot of me struggling to push it through all 3 layers because I think the needle was also pretty dull. But I later don't have to worry about that because I actually broke it trying to push it through all the layers. And as I continued to sew and make sure everything was lined up, I accidentally bent one of my pins, and this is me bending it back to continue using it because how dare it bend itself? It totally wasn't my fault. This is the point in which I broke my needle, and I contemplate my life for a second afterwards because I was using these scissors to try and push it through, which I had done previously, but this time it decided to just snap in half. So it doesn't like me very much, it seems, but luckily I did find another needle. I just broke a needle. And whoa, look, I sew so fast. No, actually, this took me like an hour to finish this one dress. It was a lot. Once again, shoved her in it to make sure everything was lined up as best as I wanted it to be. Which I could have made the top part of it a lot tighter, but I couldn't quite figure out how. High likelihood she'll turn into a halter top eventually. Or some sort of tie in the back top. Is that different than a halter top? I don't know what a halter top is, actually. And this is the final point when I changed her into the outfit I last wanted to alter, but I decided that it looked good enough on her that I didn't really care. And this dress came with a actual strawberry shortcake one. The other one was technically a raspberry one, but I love the little bows on it, and the only issue is that it's a little loose around the top and a little tight around the back. Which is pretty realistic to me trying to pick out clothes. So, get that Velcro out of here. But I also had these little shorts that I wanted to fix up for her, but I couldn't find a shirt to go with them at first, so I just kind of gave up. And here's all her final looks. It is the Tiana dress, the raspberry dress with a little raspberry headband, and my favorite by far on her, and I did eventually find a shirt for those shorts. And that's everything. Oh.